Hmm. A Blessing for the Dark by Laurel Gray. When the facade of your so-called worth crumbles, when you find yourself lost in the dark, I hope you take your time. I hope you listen for the sound of snow. Try to taste the sun as it casts sharp shadows over you. Remember, there is space here. Your body still knows how to breathe, how to heal, how to recall your wholeness. When the facade of your so-called worth crumbles, I hope you tell the truth about the wreckage, at least to yourself, and maybe, when the time comes, to someone else as well. I hope you dig deep enough into your faith that you find some fertile ground under the rubble of what was never enough, that immaculate lie of conditional love. And I hope you let it fall. For you have always been made of star sparks and darkness, a being held in balance, born of the very mystery of life. When the facade of your so-called worth crumbles, when you find yourself lost in the dark, I hope you let it wash over you. I hope you remember parts of yourself that you didn't know were lost. I hope you welcome them home, amid that echoing silence in that still, open place. I hope you plant yourself beneath the rubble and wait for spring, for the lavender twilight to remind you. Good morning. We welcome you into this space, you who have been made of star sparks and darkness, held in balance and born of the very mystery of life. Each and every one of us born from the same mystery of life, this mysterious source of all. However it is you show up this morning, we create that open space in our time together. We create it together. This past week, someone mentioned to me that they were aching for community. Aching. If you are aching this morning in your physical body or your soul or your heart, we welcome you into this space. If the sun has made you feel radiant and alive in the last 2 days, then of course we welcome you too. In fact, we welcome everyone into this space on this morning where we hold a space for stillness, for calmness, for beingness, and knowing that just being is simply enough. That our job is not to achieve some grand spiritual mountaintop, but to be with one another on the journey. And so we welcome you, wherever it is you are on your journey, and wherever it is you're headed. Welcome.
Find the stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry
Good morning. We're the Schwartzes. I'm Daleen.
And I'm Barry.
It's the first Sunday in December, and here we are well into the holiday season. This certainly has been an unprecedented year. We thought it might be fitting to take a moment this morning to focus on finding within ourselves some peace.
The reading today is by David Breeden. In this holiday season, may we find peace inside ourselves. May we be the peace for those around us. And may we renew our commitment to bring peace and justice to our community and to the world. May we be peace. And may the peace that passes all understanding remain in our minds and in our hearts this holiday season. Blessed be.
Now please join me and 11 UUFCO choir members in singing our chalice lighting response, Spirit of Life.
Good morning. My name is Chayla Sloper. I'm the Congregational Life Facilitator, and I have this morning's announcements. Firstly, since we have now crossed into the month of December, our theme for this entire month, through worship, through Soul Matters, is stillness. And it is our hope that today's service will help us launch into that place of stillness together. A special warm welcome to visitors near or far who are joining us through this virtual avenue. We have a virtual visitor information form that you can fill out. Let us know that you're with us, and if you'd like, you can sign up for our communications. We send out about one email a week, and every now and again there are special messages from Reverend Scott and about other things in the congregation. And you can unsubscribe at any time, but we welcome you to find out more about our congregation. I have a big thank you to all who have donated their coats and other warm winter clothing through our UUFCO Homeless Outreach Group. Ginny McKee and Barbara Belzer are just over the moon grateful with how generous you all have been. Today is the last day of the coat drive, and so if you haven't gone through your closets or have just been putting that off, you can still do that today and bring your coats. There's a box out by the office at the building. So today is the last day of that drive, and many of our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness are going to be a little warmer this winter because of what you have shared. For the past several years, UUFCO has been delighted to host the annual fundraising luncheon for the Latino Community Association. They call this luncheon Together We Thrive, Juntos Avanzamos. And although they were also, because of COVID, resigned to having a virtual event, UUFCO supported it again this year. Jonathan Bile, our event manager, did the Zoom production for their event this last week. And so I understand it was a great success. And of course, we were just delighted to be able to support them in that way. This coming Friday at 6 p.m., if you are Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, some millennials, you can join the XYZ virtual coffee hour. Happy hour. And like I say, that's at 6 o'clock. The Zoom link is on the calendar, so you can just go straight to the Zoom link, or when you get our weekly ACE, our all congregational email, you can email Jeff Belzer and make contact with him. Then you can be put onto the what we call a tag, so that you'll get future notices of XYZ activities. Winter solstice, we're going to be celebrating through Zoom on Monday, December 21st at 7 p.m. Dana Regan comes back to reprise the solstice celebration, and she's adapting it for Zoom. If you'd like to participate and have a speaking part, contact me this week, and we'll be sure to get that to you. Lastly, Reverend Scott has decided to open the sanctuary, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday on December 16th from 10 a.m. Till 6 p.m. As much as we've been craving to be together, this will be an opportunity to be in our sanctuary, our very sacred space, with one another for carefully socially distanced time in meditation and stillness. So that'll be December 16th on Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. More information will be in the ACE. May our hearts reach out and connect with one another during this time, and may we find stillness in our days. Blessings on your day.
Good morning. I'm Amy Brock, and I serve as the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth. If you were here last week, Taylor reminded us that many congregations started Advent last week, and we're beginning this ritual of waiting today. It's a beautiful complement to our theme of stillness this month. Advent started with a minister in Germany named Johann. The children that he worked with always wanted to know how many days were left until the Christmas holiday. So one day he built a really big ring and he put candles on it for every day that remained until the Christmas holiday. That way, children could count how many candles were lit and they would know how many days are left and they wouldn't have to keep asking him. Eventually, people started doing this in churches, but just on Sundays and Christmas Eve. However, not all UUs celebrate Christmas. Hanukkah, winter solstice, and Kwanzaa are some of the other holidays that are celebrated in UU homes throughout December, and we want to celebrate them too. The name Advent comes from the Latin word adventus, which means coming. There's a story that's often shared in December about waiting for someone who is coming. This year is very different for most of us, but I'm really excited about all of the things that are to come, and I'm excited to take this time each week in December to reflect on how our UU values ground us while we wait for so many things. The candles in our wreath represent hope, love, faith, and peace. This Sunday, we're going to light a candle for hope, and next Sunday, we'll light one that represents peace, and we'll light the one for hope then too. And as we look at our candle that's lit, I'll say it out loud, and you're welcome to say it in your heart. May we all find hope together in our hearts this day. And so ends our time for all ages today. Let's all say the Children's Covenant. In this place, I am kind. In this place, I am loving. In this place, I am a friend to the earth and all animals and people. In this place, I am loved.
In this community, we come together on our Sunday mornings and we share our joys and our sorrows with one another. When we find ourselves in periods of life where we can invite stillness, there's cause for thanks and for gratitude for having that space and that time to situate our hearts. We also know that some other periods and seasons of our life are full of tumultuous upending. And so for those, we also offer this space, whether it's joy in your heart, whether it's a sorrow in your heart, or maybe it's both on this morning. We open up our chat box now so that you might share your joy and sorrow with this community so that it might be witnessed and held. And if you have not a joy or a sorrow that you feel like sharing, please know that you are part of that chorus that does the holding.
If we've learned anything in this past year, we've learned of the impermanence of life as we once knew it. But during this season of still quiet, the longer nights, and the holiday season, perhaps we can just simply look out our windows and notice the sun that rises every morning and the moon that comes up every night, shining beautifully over the white mountains of Central Oregon, which reflect the moon's beauty. And we can find solace, comfort, consistency in a world that has turned very chaotic. And in terms of music, while you share your joys and sorrows, I'll play another piece of Debussy, which I find embodies the stillness and the quiet of this season.
One of the things I miss the most about gathering in this space in our sanctuary on Sunday mornings is the silent meditation that we would share. About a third of the way through the service, we'd ring this bell. We'd follow its tone into a silence, a shared silence amongst 100 and more people, just sitting and being together, breathing. After about 45 seconds or a minute, someone would cough, a baby might let out a whimper, a kid might become a little restless and wiggle in their seats, causing their chair to squeak. And then we just hold some more silence and just be together. I love that part of our services. And sometimes people would come up and tell me that that was the only time in the entire week, and sometimes in the week, it was the same case for me. The only time in their week that they actually slowed down, just stopped, and just remembered to breathe. They would tell themselves that they would do it sometime during the week, and they wouldn't wait a whole other week, and they'd find themselves back in that seat the next Sunday, having that same experience of having that be a 2-minute break, perhaps one of the only ones in their entire week. I love that part of our gathering together. And when we moved to Zoom, we began by doing that as well. It was just us sitting in our own living rooms or bedrooms or kitchens, wherever we might be, and we would ring the bell and we'd hold about a minute or so of silence. After about a month, the worship team had a conversation. We asked, is that working in the Zoom format? And the answer was a resounding no, that people didn't really take that time to breathe. More often than not, that was a time for a refill on coffee or to check the paper that was laying next to them, but people rarely used that space in their own home on Zoom to just have a moment of quiet. Now, some people did, I'm sure, but our sample survey of the worship team, myself included, really didn't find that we were able to gather into that space in the same way that we would here all together in our shared silence. And yet, that being the case, and today, as we focus and create space for stillness, we're going to try it again. Now, we're going to refer to this later in the sermon, so I encourage you to really give it a try so you don't feel guilty later, having not done this during the meditation. Unitarian Universalists don't usually dabble in guilt, so I'm not trying to guilt you into it. But should you find it useful, I'll invite you to just find a comfort in your own body, maybe stretch a little bit first. Maybe you haven't even thought of your body as being your body yet today. But just take a deep breath and let it out. Just take another deep breath, letting the air fill your lungs and your body and your stomach rise and expand. And then you let it out. And one more deep breath. And we'll just hold a moment of stillness and silence. And if you've closed your eyes, I'll invite you to open them. And if they're already open, I'll invite you to look around the room or the space that you're in, or maybe out of a window like Peggy suggested, and just find something around you right now that you notice, that you appreciate, that brings you joy or awe or or affects you in some way, something in your surroundings. Our hearts and bodies are better prepared for this kind of gratitude and noticing when we're still, when we remember or intentionally create some stillness within us to notice what is outside of us. And Parker, I didn't ask this before service, but I'm hoping you're hearing me. And I wonder if we might open the chat box, Parker, again, and just hear and read a couple of those things that people noticed right around them in their own space that they might not have noticed in this day yet before. Pictures of my young family, and the fire in the fireplace, yeah. Your daughter's artwork, the sun shining on pine trees and birds flying by. I'm glad you looked up to see the birds flying by, Megan. Sunshine. Light filtering through the pine trees. My homeless cats, Tim. Oh, they're going too fast now. The man quilt that her daughter made for your brother out the window. They're going too fast. An adopted dog lying in the sunshine. Big kicks for my baby in my belly. Grateful for Kim, as always. 2 beautiful Christmas trees right outside the window that I've never noticed. Tops of an aspen tree with the sun shining on it. Feeling connected. Homeless cats in front of my door. My dogs are all quiet and resting together. That's Noreen, I bet. Yep. Drips of water from melting ice outside the window. The sun shining through the window on the cardinal quilt our friend made us to put out each winter. A small pile of gifts waiting to be given. Ponderosas outside the windows. Birds, different kinds of birds. All these things just waiting to be noticed, waiting to be appreciated. And the stillness of our heart and mind and body help us to do just that. Help us to remember, to notice, to connect with that deep part inside of ourselves. And in doing so, connect with the world around us, breathing life and preaching truth into the miracle and the message of our relational connection to the world around us, that everything is in relationship, and everything is interdependent and interconnected. Thanks be for that.
Hello. Stillness. An odd benefit of the pandemic for me, in fact, I would call it a true blessing, is that I had enforced stillness. In the wave of that first shutdown, all of my obligations to do and do and do and do vanished. They were gone. And in that kind of bubble afterwards, I found that I had to do a fair amount of grieving because I realized that a part of me had not been being addressed. For all that I'm a singer and a bigger personality, I'm also very greatly an introvert. And that part of myself, that introverted part, I call my quiet. And what I realized is that my quiet had been grieving and sad for a couple of years because I had been doing. And as I started noticing my quiet in that isolation, that kind of enforced stillness, I realized that my quiet is where I write from. My quiet is where I am creative. And my quiet is where I find what I call the source, or you could call God or the divine or the beloved. And I found a real calmness and groundedness in that enforced silence. So hang on, I've just been asked to turn down my. Sorry for the pause, you guys. There, I hope that'll help. So when Scott asked me to sing and asked me for some songs about stillness, I immediately thought of a favorite poem that I have by a Kentucky poet named James Edgy. And the poem is called Sure on This Shining Night. Sure on this shining night of star-made shadows round, kindness must watch for me this side of the ground. The late year lies down the north, all is healed, all is health. High summer holds the earth, hearts all whole. Sure, on this shining night I weep for wonder, wandering far alone, of shadows on the stars. The poem of Stillness, set to music by Samuel Barber, and I'm going to sing it for you a cappella. Sure on this shining night of star-made shadows round, kindness must watch for me this side the ground. The late year lies down the north, all is healed, all is health. Late winter holds the earth, hearts all whole. Sure on this shining night I weep for wonder, wandering far alone of shadows on the stars. Thank you.
According to Buddhist scripture and tradition, the Buddha was a prince named Siddhartha Gautama, and he was protected from the outside pains of the world, inside the castle walls. He was protected from seeing any kind of suffering, and he lived a life of great privilege. Until one day he was curious what lay on the other side of the wall. And over he went, and he saw for the first time in his life true suffering. He saw pain, and he saw sickness. And he decided to spend his life as a homeless monk seeking peace of mind and trying to solve this riddle of human suffering. After 6 years of frustration, Siddhartha went and sat under a fig tree. He vowed to remain in meditation until he had fulfilled this quest of figuring out or understanding human suffering. It was during this meditation that he realized enlightenment or awakefulness. He became the one who is awake. And on December 8th, many traditions in the Buddhist world celebrate this day of enlightenment. It's called Bodhi Day. And what does a good Buddhist do on Bodhi Day to celebrate? They don't go out into the streets and have a parade or have fireworks. They usually sit in their meditation practice longer. They find that stillness and they cultivate their own understanding of kindness and compassion as a response to suffering. More stillness. The Buddha found the stillness by meditating and sitting under a tree. I've always found this fascinating, that one of the great moments in religious history was found through just simply being and meditating, being still. Newton sat under a tree as well and found his good ideas, so the story goes. So perhaps we would do ourselves well to find a tree and sit under it. But this is easier said than done, at least it is for me. Stillness is a great idea, and I know it's fruitful, but boy, oh boy, do I have a hard time with it. Finding that stillness, creating the space. Katie sings in that song about the author. It seems that this person is out by themselves on a hillside, connecting with the wide world, weeping for wonder. I can only imagine that there was a stillness around him in that moment, a stillness inside of him in that moment. But to get to that stillness takes patience sometimes. In the Buddha's Journey Home, New Buddhist Fables by Robert Long, he tells the story of one night how the Buddha was in a deep, deep meditation in his room when a cricket came in. The cricket saw that the Buddha was meditating, but no mind, began his song, started singing his cricket melody. And after a while, the Buddha stops meditating. And the cricket says, "Oh, are you enjoying my song?" And the Buddha simply says, "No." And the cricket says, "What about the lively tempo? Perhaps that's what made you stop and notice." And the Buddha said, "No, it wasn't that either. Perhaps it was the passion in my cricket song, or maybe the vibrant tone." And the Buddha said, "No, it's not that." And the cricket, who was used to having his song loved, said, "Well, then what is it? What is it that you enjoy?" And the Buddha said, "I enjoy your message." The cricket was puzzled. "There's no message in my song. There's no message there." And the Buddha said, "Your music is about patience. And that is a message we can all hear over and over." The cricket song for me is one of those sounds that just brings to mind peacefulness or stillness. I find that I only notice it when I'm out in the woods and things calm down inside and around me. Perhaps you've got your own type of environment that brings that. Maybe it's the freshly fallen stillness of the snow. Maybe it's the ocean. Maybe it's a river. But for today, let's concentrate on crickets. Oh, how I love the sound of crickets. And what an interesting idea that they invite us to hear the song of patience. So let's do just that. Let's hear some crickets. I'll invite you to close your eyes if you'd like and take another deep breath and think to yourself, where does this take me to? What feelings does this arouse in me? Parker? That clip was only 1 minute long. I wonder if you at any point thought to yourself, I wonder when this is going to be over. When are the cricket sounds going to be over? But that was just 1 minute. And so the Buddha invites us into some patience. Marty Smith is an Oregon writer. He writes one of those know-it-all columns for the Willamette Weekly. And one of the letters he received one time asked this question. I don't recall hearing nighttime insects before I stupidly left Portland in 2011. But after I came back in 2014, I noticed crickets and maybe other critters making a sound like a warm southern night around here. Is this global warming at work once again? And so Marty Smith writes back that yes, it must be global warming. Of course, the ranges of many living creatures have been shifted northward as the planet warms, and clearly the phenomenon you and I are noticing is the result of various noisy arthropods newly arrived in the area as they slowly migrate towards Kansas. And so to check this hypothesis, Marty Smith put out a call to Joshua Vlach, who's an entomologist with the Oregon Department of Agriculture. And he was able to share with Marty and the writer that they were both completely full of it, as he says. To put it in more polite terms, the entomologist said, perhaps it is that you are just older and more observant than you used to be. Vlach gently explained that Oregon has 5 native, as in have been here the whole time, species of cricket plus native katydids, native tree frogs, and probably a few other native creatures that go buzz in the night. Perhaps you're more observant. Those crickets had been there the whole time, and they just hadn't heard them. Perhaps they hadn't found that stillness in order to have that experience. We put it off. We say we'll get to it later. Sometimes we have to clean the house first, or we'll have to clear off the to-do list, or clean the desk off when it's clear, when we get all the bills paid, or the accounts done, or the errands completed, the inbox finally empty, if that ever happens. After we get the decorations from the previous holiday put away, and the new ones put up, then we'll take that cleansing breath. We'll take that moment of pause because we know it's good for us. We've just got some things to attend to first. We might think, once I'm better, once I start exercising more or eating right or stop working too much or start working at all, or when I get in tune with my higher self, that's when I'll be ready. That's when I'll take that deep conscious breath. When I'll listen for that still small voice inside. That's when I'll do it. When everything has been crafted into perfect order, and then I create the space. When everything's under my control, I'll be ready, and I'll be present to the world inside and all around me. And of course, the problem is that sometimes that never happens. Sometimes we just make plans to get there in the future, finding that tomorrow never comes. For the last 3 years, there's been a little spot in the back of my closet, a little spot about this high to the floor, just big enough for a meditation pillow. And for 3 years, there was just a bunch of junk on top of it crammed into the corners. And about 3 weeks ago, I finally cleared out the closet, put the meditation pillow in there, and thought to myself, yes, I have finally made the perfect meditation space so as to begin my more constant meditation practice. It was wonderful to sit in there that first day, that only day that I've sat in the back of my closet meditating. There's so many things to drive us to distraction, big things and little things, demanding things and things that we enjoy. There's fears and things that we must get done. There's health and there's unhealth, and there's playthings and holiday things and shiny things and electronic things that take our time and attention away. The poet John Donahue writes, "The media wraps everything in a cellophane of sound, and the ghost surface of the virtual overlays the breathing earth." The industry of distraction makes us forget that we live in a universe. We have become converts to the religion of stress and its deity of progress. Sometimes it does take a good, or at least a little, amount of discipline to remember to be silent and still. Sometimes it takes some courage to slow down, to wait, to be calm, to be reverent, to be ready for something or for nothing, but to be there still. Recently, we went to the coast, and when you're in a place like the Oregon coast, you can come by that expansiveness and stillness a little easier. It's almost like it's served up to you, watching the waves, watching the expansiveness of the beach, looking at all the wild and wonderful plant life. You can find that place easier, but it can be harder amidst all of our life to create that space inside of ourselves and inside of our day. So when we were at the coast, I made this small video. I was noticing at the tide pools, the big rush and all the water and the waves crashing about. And it reminded me of how life can feel like that. There's so much in the world around us, in the headlines and in our own lives. A lot can be going on at one time. And then I saw a small little still pool right next to all those big crashing waves. And I recognized that they're in relationship too. That still small pool, next to the waves all around it, almost as if to say there's a stillness inside of ourselves, even when we're right next to the chaos, that we can claim and find if we can create the time and the space, the attention and the intention. Parker, can we see that video now? I think of that still little puddle from time to time since we were at the coast. I think about it in relationship to all those crashing waves, and those waves never stop. They come in and they come out, but the waves continue as life continues on, never knowing what the next wave will bring, never knowing what the next day will bring. But that still small puddle of water, it inspires me. It's my teacher. Another teacher of mine, a spiritual director that I've been working with this year, encouraged me to take the small moments every single day. Just 10 seconds, she said. 10 seconds, a couple times, one time throughout your day, just to notice what's around you, to take a few deep breaths and to create some stillness inside. I felt up to this challenge, and what I found myself doing was having that first step, that remembering, and saying, oh, I should do that right now. I have a moment. And then putting it off. Did I not have 10 seconds to give? 10 seconds to slow down and connect with the world around me? To breathe deep? To feel the sacred running through my body with my breath? But I would put it off. But remembering, hey, that's step one. And that's good intention. The first step in the Buddha's 8-step path is indeed right intention. So to steer our ship in the right direction. But one of the most powerful and difficult things for me to learn about the journey of spirituality is that it's not always about me making something happen, but rather being there to receive. In Will and Spirit, Gerald May makes the point that spiritual fulfillment, if it comes at all, might have to come as though a gift rather than an accomplishment. And this can be hard for many of us to shift. How do I achieve? How do I get there? How do I get further down the road, the linear road of my spiritual path? And the Buddha, when the Buddha achieved enlightenment, was it because he did enough things? He sat just long enough? His mind accomplished enough things? Or did he arrive and clear out? The Buddha means the awoken one. So he awoke. He did not arrive. James Carr says that each one of us has a prayer within us, a genuine voice of the heart, but one we never express completely. In our restless, desiring, isolated syllables, and even phrases of that beseeching voice can be heard. Desire is the prosaic effect to silence that voice with one or another object, to captain the heart, but the heart will not be quieted. It is inherently disobedient. But in this disobedience lies our truest hope. The response is that the one thing we can truly receive is which we can only have by receiving it, and that is life itself. And so when I meditate, I remember that I'm not trying to get there. I'm not trying to arrive, but I'm trying to be. If I'm trying to arrive anywhere, it's exactly where I am in that moment. A colleague of mine, Molly Husch-Gordon, wrote, "The other day I noticed, mindful for at least a moment, that I have tended to think of meditation as a tool for the mind, body optional. Or rather, body to be twisted into uncomfortable positions and resisted in its urges. I wonder how many have thought the same. Is transcendence just another name for disassociation? Escape from flesh that will sometimes be wounded gravely and that will definitely, inescapably, decay. I read a list of dissociative experiences the other day, and one of them was feeling larger or smaller in your body, breaking or shrinking your earthly bounds, a sensation I used to seek in meditation, not for the escape, not consciously, but as a signal that I had reached another plane. But now I meditate so that the weight out of my breath will drive my fleeing mind and my drifting soul back down into core and limb. Now I meditate so as to not leave myself. And now I think that was always the point." 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a good place to start. In The Silence of God, James Carr writes, "We can easily get this backward in our religious life, assuming that our primary spiritual assignment is to make ourselves more presentable to God instead of presenting ourselves to God as we are. And so there is no other time for being, for listening, for breathing, for putting your hands into the air in wonder and delight. This is the time. Any time you feel it, or feel so moved, or have the intention, is the time. In doing this, we restore ourselves a little bit. We restore that part of ourselves towards wholeness, and then we show up in the world again and again. Round and round we go. I don't know what happened with the Buddha. inside of him when he achieved enlightenment. But I do know that his heart was moved more towards compassion and kindness and away from suffering. And I feel that too when I slow down and experience some stillness. So while I don't suspect to achieve enlightenment, I'm fascinated that I'm on the same path, that stilling and slowing down creates inside of me more compassion and kindness, inside of me. The author Pico Iyer wrote, "Perhaps we wouldn't need chapels or churches if our lives were already clear and calm. Buddha and Jesus and the saints never needed to go to church. They carry one inside themselves. Chapels and churches are emergency rooms for the soul. They are the one place we can go reliably to find out who we are and what we should be doing with our lives, usually by finding all that we aren't and all that is greater than us, to which we can only give ourselves up. A chapel is where we can hear something and nothing, our own breath and everyone else's. A silence that is not the absence of noise, but the presence of something deeper, the depth beneath our thoughts." Indeed, Emerson, who was a renowned speaker and minister, said famously once, "I like the silent church before the service begins, better than any of the preaching." I dare say that our playlist before the service and Peggy's prelude perhaps was the highlight of this entire service, a moment of stillness before all the words. And so we set our intention. We try to remember. We try to find the depth beneath the thoughts, that place of connection, even if it's just 10 seconds at a time. It's worth it. It's holy to find that stillness, and then to hold the stillness, and then to let the stillness carry you. Find the stillness, hold that stillness, and may that stillness carry you to places unknown inside of yourself and you and your connection to the world around you through compassion and through kindness. May it be so this day, every day, and right now for 10 seconds. Works for me. Amen.
And let's now take a few moments to be still, to just be and to breathe.
I invite you to join me in singing our closing song. The words are simple. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in love. As we sing this, I'll change the last word or phrase and let you know ahead of time. But just another way of thinking about this stillness that holds us and that is before and within everything that happens. Think of the sky, all the weather that happens, whether it's cloudy, whether it's sunny and hot, whether it's stormy or windy. All of this happens in the sky, and the sky holds it all and remains in itself unchanged. So when we sing these words, my soul in stillness waits, we live in an external world, and yet we experience it through our internal world. So the soul is all of that, that perceives, that feels, and the stillness is like the sky. And this quality of waiting is not like tapping the watch or tapping the foot or agitated, but it's an openness and a receptivity. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life. That is to say, I make this intention in love or light or life. Sing with me. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in love. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in love. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in love, in light. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in light. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in light, in life. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in life. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in life, in love. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in love. My soul in stillness waits. I rest my life in love. And humming.
Thank you, Chayla. Thank you, Katie, for the beautiful music. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, choir singers, for all the beauty that comes through music for us today. If you have lit a chalice at home, we invite you to extinguish that as I extinguish our chalice here. And I invite you to say with me the covenant of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Central Oregon. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We hope that you might consider joining us for one of our breakout rooms, our virtual coffee hour that will be directly after Peggy's postlude. It's just a space where we have about 10 minutes, 12 minutes usually about 5 or 6 people in a room. And our question today that we were inviting you to explore is, what have you learned about stillness in your life? What have you learned about this idea of being still and how it might serve you, or what's difficult about it, or what is the learning or your relationship to stillness? During the postlude, we'll also put up information on how you can support the work of this fellowship through our offering. That's either through our website or through text to give. That information will be up there, and we are grateful, as always, to those who donate and help keep this place going and running, whether it's keeping our building going, or whether it's keeping our staff running, or supporting our programs, or supporting our work in the community. Your resources shared with this congregation are always, always appreciated, and we have a grateful heart for them. We'll close today with some words from Howard Thurman. What are we doing with our lives? What are the motives that order our day? What is the end of our doings? Where are we trying to go? Where do we put the emphasis, and where are our values focused? Where is my treasure, and what do I want most in life? To what am I true? Whew. Floating up through all of the jangling echoes of our turbulence, there is a sound of another kind, a deeper note, which only the stillness of the heart makes clear. May you hear that still note from your heart today and every day. Go in peace.